Hello, friends. Uncle Marv here with another episode of the IT Business Podcast, the show for IT professionals and managed service providers, where we help you run your business better, smarter, and faster. Well, folks, we have a very special show for you today, and that is because I'm going to tell you why. So I put out the word that if you were going to be in Fort Lauderdale for the SolarWinds Empower conference, to let me know. Or I would reach out if I knew that people were coming. And so if you saw the pictures on the Facebook, you saw that Tim Coach is here in the house, in studio. So we're going to put together a little podcast. So Coach, welcome.
Oh, thank you for very much. It was, you was like, hey, why don't you come on down since I was just going to be down the road? And I was like, absolutely. We've done the podcast a few times, both video and voice.
Yep.
And I'm like, how do I resist not going in office and doing a podcast with Uncle Marv?
Yeah, but I kind of was wondering, did you really think it was that serious, or that you really found me that close to the venue?
Yeah, I like, look, a couple different things. One, you're a friend. And two, I've always liked what you do and what you put out. So if you're going to extend an offer to me, I'm going to come, because I think that's a very personal thing, right? It's like, hey, come over, see the office. Let's, break bread. Let's have a conversation about what's going on. That's the best of what I do, right?
Yep. And I appreciate it, because we have had some great conversations, both technical and non-tech, which is always great.
Oh yeah. It's I've done a few podcasts over the years, and the ones that kind of mix them both and don't necessarily stick to, always Sandler's always says don't show up and throw up. Right. I don't like that. I want to be interactive. I like the people. I like to learn a little bit about them. They usually know more about me than I think they do, or they should. But no, they're always the best. I love doing them.
All right. So for those of you that are wondering, okay, who's this Coach guy? If you're new to the show, because I know that some people are, Tim Coach is the community and channel evangelist for Cynomi. You've been in the channel for a few years, but you've been at Cynomi now for, has it been over a year?
Creeping up on 2.
On 2 years. Okay, nice. All right, we'll get to Cynomi in a minute.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the facts. So Tim came here. We had a little dinner.
Yep.
We talked a little shop. Tim is now a Florida man.
I am a Florida man.
So let me ask you about that.
Okay.
We talked a little bit about living in Florida, and talked a little bit of house stuff. But coming from where you came from before, how's it like to be here in Florida full time?
So I will tell you that I absolutely love living in Florida. Like the St. Pete area, I love it so much. Like, it's when you get down here, you think it's, because I'm from the Midwest, so I always see things as bigger than they are. And it's where the house is, I'm like 10 minutes from any one of my favorite spots. So absolutely love living in Florida. I will tell you, and you'll enjoy this because this is kind of Florida man-ish.
Okay.
The thing that has struck me the strangest, I guess, is so we all have like Ring apps or whatever the software is that you have on, or the doorbell or the cameras, all that.
Right.
Well, I have those on my house like everybody else does, right? But it's funny to me because the neighborhood as a whole, when I say the neighborhood, I'm not talking about like my 3-block area. Like there's a 20-block area, and they use the Ring app like it's Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, does anybody know a plumber? Oh, did you hear the gunshots? Well, it's not gunshots, it's firecrackers, and St. Pete's always got something going on. It's extremely lively. Like a couple of weeks ago, they had I forget, was it something on the pier? They were shooting lasers, and the lasers were going across the whole town in the ocean. Everybody's like, what's that? Just the way that they use the Ring app for general information has probably been the craziest thing that just makes me laugh every time my phone dings. And it's like, what grocery store are you using?
It is, so Ring app, when they added all of that has now become the upgraded neighborhood app, because it used to be the neighborhood app that would do that. So now they're on RingCam, and they'll use it. Hey, does anybody recognize this person? I think he's breaking into my car. Well, why don't you call the police?
Yeah, no, it's insane, the conversations that they have on there. It's also insane to me, the conversations where people don't know the difference between a gunshot and a firework. Because it's always like, oh, there's a gun battle going on. No, they're setting off fireworks at the park where all the kids are doing the flag football thing and they just won the championship. It's the most funniest thing to watch.
Well, listen, St. Pete is not a gun-rich place. So if you were to go a little farther north, like Pasco County, Hernando County, they would know the difference.
Okay. Well, that's probably been the most Florida man-ish kind of thing that I've enjoyed, that I've just not seen that before, people using that app and that particular function.
Yeah.
But it's been awesome. But the move to Florida has been fantastic.
All right.
And it's really wanted a retreat when I wasn't, because I'm on the road all the time. And when I wanted to come home, I just wanted a place to relax. There's great food down here. You can go to a seaside place and have a great plate of fish or a burger joint or whatever it is. It's a very cultured area. And I've enjoyed home being more like I'm actually on vacation and enjoying my home versus I'm in Kansas City and there's 2 inches of ice and 3 feet of snow on top of the ice and I can't go anywhere and everybody in this house is driving everybody crazy.
So in St. Pete. So the question is St. Pete Beach or Clearwater Beach?
Oh, see, I haven't.
You haven't done Clearwater Beach, have you?
I've done Clearwater Beach.
Okay.
It's a bit, it's all crazy, right? There's all a ton of people, especially on the weekend. So during the week, it's not too bad. Don't tell my boss to go to the beach during the week. But I think right now it's probably Clearwater Beach. And the reason why is St. Pete Beach is extremely shelly. And I asked some locals and they basically said that was the result of the storms from a couple years ago.
Yes.
Is it churned that up? And they said that beach used to be just like perfect powder. So probably Clearwater right now, just because I think we're still waiting on the cycles of the ocean to get rid of all those shells and get back to the sand.
Yeah, there's been a cycle of, I think it was 3 different hurricanes came up that coast and did that. So all the way from like Fort Myers up to St. Pete is all that way. It used to be just pure white, put your foot in the sand, enjoy it type of beach. And now that area is kind of like the east side of Florida where it's rough and rugged, but it'll clear out.
Yeah, but I also have pool in the backyard, so it's never that bad.
Yeah, we've seen your pool. We've seen you fall in the pool.
This is true. If you can't laugh at yourself, what's the point?
Oh my goodness gracious. So now when you came over for this event, you decided to drive.
Yeah.
So it's a 4-hour drive technically. Did you do it in less?
I think it was about 3:15.
Okay, so you flew a little.
I matched the speed of the traffic.
Okay, that makes sense. There you go. So coming across, did you come down 75 and then across over Alligator Alley?
Yep.
Had you done that before?
I did that way back. So years and years ago, I worked for a fairly large nationwide company, and we had offices in basically North Miami and Miami, and then in Fort Myers.
Okay.
So I used to come down, I'd hit the Orlando office, drive down, hit North Miami, then Miami, and then I would cross over to Fort Myers.
Okay.
So I've done Alligator Alley quite a few times. It really depends. I've noticed it really depends on the weather, whether the alligators are actually out, but the giant fences that keep them off the road are always welcome to my vehicle.
Nice. All right. And anything else? Now, let's see. That's been what, about 8 months now? You've been down here?
Yeah. Well, about 6 or so.
6 months. Okay. And think it's going to be the permanent home?
I think so. Yeah. Like I've actually started looking at, because I wanted to lease for a year to see if I liked it. Right. Because it's like, I'm willing to move. Military background. I moved a bunch as a kid. Like I'll move. It doesn't matter. But it just seems like St. Pete is a good home. I will tell you though, that surprisingly, the inability to find a quality Tex-Mex restaurant has been about the death of me, because that's like in Kansas City, like a solid Mexican Tex-Mex. Those are just, that's every Tuesday and Friday night is where you're at those places. So I found some good places, just not like, I haven't found the one that's like home, right?
We have to put out the alarm over there. So there's a ton of people over in that Tampa St. Pete area. So somebody should know.
The other thing that I asked the other day, I was on Reddit the other day. I'm on Reddit all the time because that's kind of like how the nature is. And I asked the other day, I was like, what are the radio stations? Like, it's like, I get down here and everybody's talking. They're talking about nonsense. I mean, you can't even say, okay, this is a political station. I don't want to listen to politics. You can't say it's a station about entertainment. I don't want to listen about what the actors and actresses are doing. Like a good talk radio morning show with some music and then music throughout the day. So I finally went on Reddit and I'm like, can you just help a brother get a radio station? And luckily the St. Pete and Tampa natives have come out in force, and now my presets on the Jeep are just lit up with everything that they've recommended.
Okay, so did you get 104.1 talk radio?
I did not get that one.
Okay. Did you get Bubba the Love Sponge?
I did not get Bubba the Love Sponge.
And let's see, on that side, I don't think our favorite show over here, the KVJ morning show on WRMF with Kevin, Virginia, and Jaybird, I don't think it makes it to that side.
Yeah, I think the one that most people were really, it really surprises me sometimes when people are like, I really like this, and you wouldn't think that's it. So I think it's like 88.1. And essentially it's a bunch of what it seems to be is a bunch of amateur DJs.
Oh, yeah.
That they get a time slot, but the music is all over the place, right? Like 1 minute you might be listening to old hair bands, and the next minute you're listening to the new top 40 stuff. And then I'll ask for rap, but I have to specify I'm looking for 90s rap.
You're not
going to. People are like, people want to give me the new stuff, and I'm like, the new stuff isn't rap.
You're not going to get that on that side over there. You're going to get more country than you will.
Yeah, I found a lot of country in between here and there.
Oh, yeah. A lot of country.
Yeah, so it's been good. Like there was a good quality spread of various genres of music. So I just went in. The only thing I wish I could do is I wish I could go in and program those radio stations to say, like old rock, latest or top 40 hits or salsa or whatever the scenario is. I'd love to be able to go in and actually program them, because I am a geek by education and trade.
Right.
So I feel like if I can program something that says this is a preset button to 88.1, I can put DJs all over the place or whatever the scenario is. And I don't have the ability to do that, or I just haven't figured it out yet because I spend too much time on the road.
Okay. Well, aren't you can do Sirius XM, right?
Yeah, but okay, so that's a great point, because somebody said, this is 2026, use a phone. And I'm like, if I wanted to use my phone, I wouldn't ask for a radio station, right? It's just, I'm just that age
but
where
you can get Sirius XM in the car though, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm just at that age that I enjoy a solid, like, it used to be turn knobs. Now it's an up and down switch on the left side of my steering wheel, right?
Yeah, that's true.
But I enjoy finding a solid DJ that makes me laugh, that's got some good music taste. But it's like that. I think that's kind of, I think as because I'm getting older, right? I've got a couple of decades behind me now. I think that's just something that's going away, because it is all now. Use your Amazon Music or your YouTube Music or Sirius and
Spotify and iHeart.
It's like that. But I get on those, and what I find is it's if you're in a car long enough, they just repeat the same crap.
It's a playlist.
Like, I'm like, can you I just want something all over. I don't want to hear the same song unless I tell it I want to hear that song for like a week. But if you're in the car long enough, you'll hear the same song 3 or 4 times.
Oh, yeah. The only way to get around that is to pay for the upgraded subscription so you can make your own custom station, which is what I've done. Like tonight you were here. So that's iHeart on there. And I just basically created a station out of an artist. And so that's why you heard all the different songs.
Okay.
But the problem is you got to pay for it, which is what's frustrating.
Oh, it's everything.
Radio, you didn't have to pay for radio back in the day.
Yeah. So I recently got into F1 just because my other half, she loves F1. And it's like,
really?
there was an app. Oh yeah. There was an app. So it was like, okay, it's great, because we could just watch the whole thing, the pre-days and the practices and all this stuff. Now all of a sudden you can only get the app if you have an Apple subscription. So it's like, now I've quantified 3 times what the cost of the app is. And on top of that, I now have to watch Apple commercials. It's like, It's like, can I just have the app? I don't want to go through Apple and everybody else, but it's all about money nowadays.
Yeah, that kind of ruined it back with the cord cutting days when it was great.
Yeah.
But now I knew this would happen. All the big companies are like, we are losing money. So we're going to go buy all the apps. So you still pay for the app, and then you're still going to get commercials, so we can still get double the money on top of it. So that has been frustrating. So whether it's iHeart, Spotify now, their freaking walled garden. I mean, you can't get stuff unless you have a Spotify subscription, and then to get the actual channel you got to pay for that on top of it.
And then if you don't want the commercial, you have to pay for the upgrade to the upgrade.
Yeah. So, and the reason I know this is because I was looking at all the, monetizing things I could do as a podcaster. And of course, I could do that. I could have you guys pay to hear this on Spotify, but then I'd probably lose, 100 of my 150 listeners.
Oh, yeah. That was probably I think the greatest, I do love the fact that I can binge watch things because I do enough international traveling that I can get through a whole series. The problem is in an 8-hour flight, I'm through an entire series, and now I got to find something else to watch.
Right, because everything's only eight shows now.
Right.
So, yeah, she'll never listen. So my wife is, so we are probably running about 15 different shows. And we just finished one, and, she's like, well, we got to watch this because it's the cliffhanger. I'm like, wait a minute. It just started. And she goes, yeah, but it started before this. And I'm like, okay, who keeps track of all this stuff now? And,
it's ridiculous.
And they're all on different apps. That's what's frustrating me the most is I wish that somebody would come up a way where we can consolidate all of the apps in one place where we can find the show and then have it automatically go to the app so that we wouldn't have to go back and forth between the apps. Just put our favorite shows together, and then we just go to one place to get the show.
Yep.
Regardless of which app it's on. That's where I think,
yeah, there's some apps out there that I really like. I got introduced to Red Zone. I love that. So, because I don't have the patience to watch a full NFL
we have that.
Football game anymore. But I can't watch a single 4-hour football game, but I can watch 8 straight hours of Red Zone.
But you know why I first got Red Zone? Fantasy football.
Oh, yeah. Yep. But see, I think that's also fantasy football is where we went from being fans of the sport to fans of the players.
True.
Right. And it's I think people stopped being those hardcore fans because I remember if I could have had fantasy football, which I mean, it would never happen, but you go back to Lyle Alzado and, Franco Harris and all these old guys that I just loved to watch back then. Right. And that's I watched the Steelers because I wanted to see the Steel Curtain and I want to see Frank run. And that's why I watched the Steelers. Nowadays, it's I only want to see Frank run. I'm going to watch Frank run. I'm not actually going to watch Frank run. I'm going to watch the app to see if Frank got enough points to get me into the next position I need to get into.
Absolutely. That's part of it. But the other problem is your players now don't stay with the same team.
No.
I mean, it is rare. We are getting to the end of players staying with teams more than 3 years, 5 years.
Yeah, franchise is becoming such a short period thing now. Yeah. It's not even franchise players used to mean they were going to live their whole career out, right? Tony Gonzalez, franchise player, right? Yep. Bounced off for a couple of years, went to chase the ring, didn't get a ring. And now the thing is they get a contract for a single day with their team of choice. So Gonzalez came back, single day contract, so he could say he retired as a Chief.
Right. Yeah, they need to get rid of that. That's just, I mean, I get it.
Right.
It does make some sense. If you spent, 14 years at a team and they cut you,
right,
and then you went to go to other teams, that's different. But now if you leave after year 3, okay, I'm not going to go where I was going with that because that's a touchy subject in the basketball arena.
Okay.
Because basketball, it's worse than the NFL. NFL's catching up. But, I mean, we're going to see Tom Brady I'm surprised he didn't go do his one-day thing for the Patriots. Aaron Rodgers, who knows what he's going to end up doing. But it's this retirement thing. I don't know. Sports, I'm getting tired of sports. Did you watch the NCAA tournament? Do you watch
I
that?
did not,
The
but I will, and you're probably going to lose a couple of listeners just because you had me on. I'm going to say this, but basketball is just not my jam. Like the last 2.5 minutes of a basketball game is the most painstaking or excruciating thing you can watch because you were down by 50 points. There is no way on any entity that you so chooses green earth that they are going to win, but they will stretch that 2.5 minutes out for 45 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't have the patience for that.
Or you could be like Connecticut and Duke in the Final Four and be down 20-something points and find a way to come back and win when you shouldn't.
Yeah, there was like there was some good final games.
Yeah.
That definitely happened this year just because of circumstances. I was somewhere where I could watch them. But overall, no, the basketball isn't like one of the sports. I tend to find myself leaning nowadays more towards the 90-minute sports. So rugby, soccer, hockey, like these sports that are like about 90 minutes long. Like I love, probably one of my favorite sports is like, I love college softball. Like the fact that ball, if people actually looked at the statistics of college softball, how fast that ball's moving when it gets to the plate, and that them ladies have 3 to 5 different swings, that they might have gotten the signal of which swing they're swinging a couple minutes earlier. They may be making it on the fly, but it's just such a fast moving sport that I really, because it's quick, right? It's keeping my attention. Baseball is like, can you throw the ball, please? Can you please throw the ball?
Well, they did change it up in baseball where they put a time clock on the pitchers. So that's helped. But you're right. College softball is probably one of those areas where you can still, it's fast paced enough to keep your interest. It doesn't look as jaded.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't look as fixed as some of the other sports and stuff. I mean, I just watched my Florida State girls lose 2 games in a row for the first time this season to Stanford. In Stanford, those girls balled out. They were hitting grand slam home runs. There was a lot of action in those games.
Well, I watched OU pull it out against Texas last night, and I didn't think it was going to happen. It was not looking favorable.
True. Yeah.
And there at the last minute, they were able to do it. And it's okay. So how often do you see a double play in softball, like a true fast?
They are hard. They are
double
hard.
play versus baseball.
They're
few and far between
because the base running is. I mean, the bases are shorter. First of all, but yeah, it is hard. Let's see. Probably 1, maybe 2 a game at most in softball. Baseball, you can get 1 an inning.
Yeah, I just think that the softball game is so much quicker.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it keeps my attention, is because it is fast paced. Same thing like rugby, they never stop moving. Hockey, they never stop moving. Soccer, they never stop moving.
Okay, I'm with you on rugby. I'm with you on hockey. I don't think I can get with you on soccer.
Oh, okay. I will tell you that it's like, I probably got into soccer because my son at one point was a keeper on a competitive team. So that's where I kind of got to learn soccer.
Okay.
And then obviously I spend quite a bit of time in Europe. And if you're not either on the soccer or the rugby program in Europe, like nobody will talk to you.
I was going to say,
or cricket, and I can't watch cricket.
Well, cricket's tough. Cricket is tough because we don't know the sport. Cricket's one of those things you have to know the sport to keep up with it. And there are some nuances, because I've sat with somebody who was obsessed with cricket, and I was like, dude, what are you watching? And he's like, okay, watch this. And it's just one of those technical things where you got to know it. And I'll be honest, I ain't got time.
Yeah.
I ain't got time.
Yeah.
So, all right. So Tim, we've been all over the place. Didn't think we talked sports.
Well, you never know. I mean, we're on a podcast. We said we're going to let it take us where it took us, and that's where we were for the last few minutes.
It did. So let's at least try to end off here talking a little bit of tech, specifically Cynomi. I know that you're here representing Cynomi at the Enable Empower conference here in Fort Lauderdale. Let me ask you, I'll probably see you at the booth,
Yep.
but you'll probably be surrounded. What's new with you guys in the last few months?
I think the biggest thing that you're going to see is, so what I really love about Cynomi is the way we're pushing forward for the community, right? So we're very astute at listening to what the community wants, where it's going, how to do those things. So one of the things I love is we do a community call every Wednesday, and it's open to everybody, right? So it's not just like, you don't have to be a CISO or a CISSP. You could just be someone that's trying to learn a little bit more about security, or maybe the way another company is approaching security.
Right.
So I love that we do that. We had 2 really big releases in the last week. The first one is what we're calling our public API. We're still growing, right? We're still maturing as a company, and we have a lot of stuff to do, and AI is all over the place. And God forbid we don't say AI on any kind of talking conversation, but how are we using it? So although while we're working on that, we still seen one of the things that we need to do is this public API, because with the MSP, MSSP, ITSP, MIP, wiggity, whatever you want to call the P, right? We have to work more efficiently. So the API we release specifically is to allow, so in our platform, they're called tasks, the different pieces of work you need to do. Well, as we know, in an MSP, or we'll call them all service providers, in a service provider, they have a ticketing system, the PSA system. So that's where it happens, right? Because we always say when we run a service provider, we always say if it's not in the ticketing system, it didn't happen.
Right.
So the public API was specifically to take our task and in a bi-directional way work between our platform and the PSA, so that we do have the integration. So we do have the tickets getting updated from our system, and our system getting updated as the techs are in actually doing the work in the PSA. So really love that one because it's a labor reduction thing, and we all know margin is huge, especially when you can reduce labor.
Right.
And then the other thing, we launched what we call our AI agents. So
I was going to ask because I remember that, and I was thinking, okay, is this on top of the agent? But those are 2 different processes.
2 different processes.
Okay.
So if you actually go into the Cynomi dashboard, what you see is there's modules, right? And in the module, there's now a button, for lack of a better term. And then when you click that button, what it's going to tell you, and keep in mind, we're talking about security, and it could be anything from something like CE Plus to CMMC2, right? So it can be very rudimentary and it can be very complex. But the problem is as we know it, CISOs and CISSIPs and the people that really sit on top of that security level, they don't have enough time to go in and look at everything. So what we've done is we've said, okay, with these AI agents, we're going to tell you what you're looking at. We're going to tell you why it's relevant. And then we're going to give you some options on what the next steps are going to do. So once again, we're taking the CISO built-in knowledge and driving it down, or driving it to the point where it opens up a tier 2 or maybe a tier 3 or even maybe a high-end tier 1 to start doing some work. So then when it's ready for the CISO, it's ready for the security leader, they can go and say, okay, well, I checked Tim's work, and Tim's work via these AI agents is where we need to go.
Okay.
Right. So it's really set up in a way that it's once again, it's showing you what's important. It's telling you why it's important, and it's showing you what the next steps so you can do with that. Right. So we're taking that work off of the CISO and bringing it down to the people that actually do the work every day, can be much more efficient at doing that.
Okay. Let me ask this. This is probably going into left field. We talked earlier tonight about the conversations that need to be had between us as service providers and our customers that are more business focused. Do these things help with that?
100%.
Okay.
Because, and the reason why is, and to get a little bit more into that, if anybody's heard me talk lately, I've been heavy talking on business impact analysis, right? And that's a business relationship. So The figure is 3 to 5 processes of every one of our partners, our MSP partners, right? 3 to 5 of their processes makes 80% of their revenue. If we're not doing a business impact analysis to understand what that is, right, and how we can bring that around more importantly, and I can say, okay, I've done the business impact analysis. I'm now comparing it to the security piece. So now what I have the ability to do is take the security world and turn it into cost, revenue, or risk. So now I'm able, because I understand how they make money, to take that security thing. And I've been harping on this, I think, for a minute. I think the problem with security as we know it today is none of us know how to translate what we're looking at security into cost, revenue, and risk, which is how our clients speak, right? So we have to be able to take what, in this case, Cynomi gives you as a security posture and a security journey, and then translate that to our partners about, this is how I can help you make money. You know, one of the scenarios I have is, like when we talk about that, for instance, you can say, you know, I need to buy $50,000 in new hard drives. All the CFO is going to hear is you want to spend 50 grand, right? But if you say, hey, I've got this project, it's going to cost us about $50,000 for these new hard drives. What that's going to do for us is it's going to reduce our sales cycles by 15 seconds per sell. That's going to make us another 200,000 ARR a year. Right?
Yeah.
So I didn't talk nerd, I talk business, right? If I take MFA and I say, hey, I want to put in MFA, right? They're going to say, great. Now I got like 3 or 20 different ways I got to log in. But if I say MFA protects us from what statistics are telling us is about $4,000 in losses when the breach happens or occurs, we're preventing that risk. Now I'm having a risk conversation and where the tech aligns with the risk. I'm no longer talking about the zeros and ones and the nerds and the bits and the bobs. I'm talking about the way they listen. And it's our job to be a part of that. And I think the more that we start taking security out of the nerd world and putting it into the business world will help that sales process, because you're putting it in a language that they understand versus the language we understand.
Right. So, yeah, we had talked about the whole idea of we've got to use this as a way to either help them understand how they can save money in the long run, or, and what I said was protect their money.
Correct.
And that's how I've looked at it. And what worked with me for one law firm is they wanted to do MFA for certain people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, we have people that they don't need MFA. They're smart. They won't, nothing will happen. Well, one of them had an email compromise, not a big one, but it was something we caught pretty quick, got them rectified. And I told them, I said, we've got to put MFA on there now. Their client turned around and was one of the people that got hit with, you know, one of those emails that went out and said, oh, you're not doing this? Well, if you don't do this, you're going to lose our business. And, you know, ting, 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 that went off in their heads like, oh, we got to do this to save our business.
And that's a thing where, like, it's coming.
Yeah.
Right. We've seen it. I mean, granted, things don't have teeth at first, right? We all talk about HIPAA and how it had no teeth for about 5 years and now it's got teeth, right? I was just with another partner in Ohio, and Ohio released this new regulation that says come January 1st of 27, if you don't meet this security criteria, we're not giving you any money. So we got to start somewhere, and we got to start putting into it a business aspect that it's like you're protecting yourself and you're protecting your clients. How we do that, because we both know, just I'm telling my client to do it, but that also means I need to do it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the reason why, like, one of the things we adamantly believe at Cynomi is we need to be helping our partners out, not just third partners. So, like, if you come on board with Cynomi, you have an NFR license. Why is that? Well, you should be holding yourself to your own baseline standard against a framework. And I know this is probably not going to be a popular comment, but I'll make it anyways, because if you know me, that's what I do. If you're a service provider and you have a security standard, and that security standard does not meet some kind of governmental baseline, then your standard is not good enough. Now, that doesn't mean you can't take a baseline like a CIS and add 5 or 10 things to it to meet what your particular security baseline is. But if the baselines that we made up, and I made them up too, as in when I was an MSP, so don't think that I'm sitting over here as the golden child, because I'm not.
Right.
If they were that great, then the government would have adopted them, just like what the government did with finance. They got rid of the whole finance regulation and said, now we're going to use some version of one of these other frameworks, right? We have to baseline against the same standards so that we're doing it across the board for ourselves and for our partners, so that our businesses are better off. We're protecting the data, we're protecting each other and our clients as well.
You talk to a lot of MSPs. How many do you think are not doing what's even out there now? If we're talking NIST, CIS, I don't want to say CMMC because that's specific. Let's go NIST, CSF.
I'd say the majority of them
are not doing.
Are not. I think a lot of them may have like, this is our security standard. But when I'm talking to people, when I say, do you have a security practice? They default to MDR, XDR, business continuity. And I'm like, no. Like, are you baselining against a NIST or a CIS or, one of those, a GDPR if you're in Europe, or Europe right now is pushing heavy on CE+, right? Cyber Essentials Plus. Most of the conversation I'm having, the answers are no. Now, in probably the higher end, more mature, the people that's been doing it longer, you're seeing it there, but you're not necessarily seeing it across the board.
Okay. So I'll tell you what I'm going to expose myself a little here. So
there's no camera. You're good.
Yeah. So I've been trying to come up with a combo package that my minimum is CSF. Just the minimum for me to even walk in the door and talk to you. But I'm trying to do the next level. I'm only going to have 2 levels. I'm not going to have a gold, bronze, silver. Here's the baseline. And if you want to go full security, here's the next level. And that next level is going to be NIST. I think it's 800-171, CIS above the CSF. At least as far as I can tell, that's probably the baseline that we should be at. Do you think that's fair or no?
No, I think for the majority, yes, that's fair. Okay. Right? Specifically if you're in a non-regulated industry.
Right, yeah, non-compliance. Right. I'm talking about has nothing to do with compliance. If you've got HIPAA, if you've got FINRA, if you've got CMMC, that's different.
Yeah, because the great thing about like what you're talking about is none of those steps all build on each other.
Right.
Right. So it's like the fact that you're starting that out and saying, here's like the baseline and then here's the next level up. That's what we should be looking at. We should be, it's the baselines are the standards, right? We got to stop making it up. We got to get all on the same board. I mean, it took Apple forever to give us the lightning cord from the regular USB-C, but having a baseline and a standard is what we all need to be doing, because that's like, how are you security first if you're not baselining against the security framework?
Right.
Right. And I think that's where the argument happens is, you'll have the MSSPs, right? What I'm finding from them is most of them aren't trying to do like the help desk and the service and all that other kind of stuff. They're truly being security, but even they understand that like baselining against a specific framework is better for them and their clients, because when we start talking about it as you're standardizing your services, like you standardize on, here's 2, maybe 3 that I'm going to work with. If you're trying to standardize on 15 different frameworks, baselines, including whatever your own made up, this is what I call secure thing is, hugely inefficient, and you're going to lose money just because you're not going to have a single expert that can manage all those frameworks, no matter how smart they are. And there's plenty of smart people in our space, but it's like, that's where we lose money as an industry, is when we're not standardizing on a single thing and we're saying, I'm going to support everything.
Well, I think the problem is our customers look at us and say, well, you don't have a standard, so we're just going to go with what we think works best for us. And we as service providers allow that to happen by saying, okay, customer's always right.
So thanks for teeing that up, because I agree with you. And the reason why I agree with you is because this is something we've done to ourselves.
Okay.
Right? When you, not you specifically, because we've had quite a bit of conversations about how you interact with your partners. Right. So when most service providers talk to their partners, there's always a cross-sell, upsell opportunity. Always. They're always selling. We got to stop selling. We got to start consulting. We got to be the expert in the room. All road leads to sales. But when you sit in on these high-level C-suite meetings, they're not talking about, some they do, but they're not necessarily talking about money. They're talking about, how are we doing? How are we performing? What are the problems we're having? Where do we need to go? Do we want to acquire that company? Do we want to be acquired? Those are high-level business conversations. Eventually, it's going to be like, okay, I'm going to acquire this company that has 20 people there. If you're not in that room having the business conversation, not trying to sell them, but saying, okay, have we looked at their systems? How we looked how old their systems are? How many people do they have? If you're not in that room just having the basic business conversation, then at what point do they come to you and say, okay, we need to put some figures together? Because I guarantee you HR's putting figures together on what it looks like. The mechanics are putting whatever figures they need to be doing. Depending on the kind of shop it is, everybody in that company is doing some kind of understanding of what it's going to cost to bring that company on, except for IT. And we don't get a seat at the table because every time we see our clients or our partners, we try to sell them something. If we go in there with a true, I'm here as a business partner, I'm going to know how you make money. I'm going to talk about Q1. I'm going to talk about H1. I'm going to talk about what we're looking at next year. And we're just going to talk about how you grow as a company from an IT perspective. You're never going to get that opportunity at how much does it cost to have this project or to implement this next phase of business, because they don't consider you that way.
You're right. And I've sat on a couple of conversations with some clients, luckily, that have brought me in early enough where I can be a part of that conversation. And I do find myself sometimes biting my tongue because I always want to say, ooh, that's going to cost. But I found that if I keep my mouth closed, let us talk about the end goal first. Then they'll sit and talk about, okay, what's this going to cost us?
Right.
But the surprise isn't as big because they know where they want to go. How can we afford to get there is a secondary part of that conversation. But if we go in first saying, yeah, we want to sell you this new tool, it's going to save us a whole ton of time. It's going to cost you an extra, $2 an endpoint or whatever. They're like, okay, it's saving you time. Is it saving us time?
Right. Where's the value? Because that's what we have to understand is people buy value. Right. I don't care if you're talking about a car, a frying pan, or your next IT solution, right? Your next widget. Somehow the person that's buying is got to see the value and be emotionally connected to why the value is there for them.
Well, I won't throw the cars in there anymore.
Yeah, they're becoming a commodity.
Yeah, people are buying cars for vanity, not for value.
So, but my point is, though, is that people buy value.
Yes.
Right? So if it's valuable to me as the service provider, but I don't understand how to have the business conversation like security to make it value to the business, then why would they buy it? If I can go in there and say, this is the value that this piece of security, MFA, NIST, Duo, whatever it is, if I can go in there and show them the value and help them understand emotionally that's important for them to buy it, they'll buy it. Now, the turnaround where you get bit in the butt is being able to prove ROI. Like, people will buy emotionally, but then they logically justify the purchase. And that on our world is called ROI.
Yes.
So you've got to be able to sell the value emotionally, and then you got to be able to logically help them understand why they purchase it and what they're getting out of it.
Yep, that is true. Ooh.
Got deep.
Got deep.
Got deep.
And we didn't even bring up the AI question we talked about earlier.
Oh my God. Here's my controversial statement about it.
Oh, okay.
AI is not here to replace the human. It's here to make the human more efficient. There is at no point where the human should not be overwatching the AI, improving it. We all use it at different levels, but if you're using it and just putting it out there in the world and you're not in any kind of oversight, it's nothing different than RMM or a PSA or whatever EDR or mid-level security practice we're using. It's a tool, it's a solution, right? But when I say AI, I encourage everybody to walk and I'll probably get some hate for this one. When someone says AI, ask them what their AI does and see if they can tell you. Because I think that's important, because like now, I was just on here earlier talking about AI agents. What does it do? It shows you what you need to be looking at. It tells you why it's important. And then it shows you the next steps you should take to resolve an issue if it's an issue.
But it doesn't do those steps.
It doesn't do those things, right? Now we can get into the argument of, is it AI or is it RPA?
True.
Right? Because there's a lot of things out there people will say are AI, and it's actually just RPA.
Right.
Right? Like, it's and that's the thing with it. I think it's so messy that there's no clear conversation. And that's the reason why I say, when someone says AI, ask them what it's doing, right? Once again, I believe AI is a tool. Now, understand, I came from a company that used AI to resolve level 1.5 tickets, right? And how that AI was built in there, right? Very much a competitor to a company that openly said they were an RPA, right? There's nothing wrong with the definition as long as the definition meets the criteria of what you're looking for.
Right.
Right. I don't want to Google it. I want it to tell me exactly what I need to do, but I still need the human to do it because I want to make sure it's done.
But I would venture to say that probably 50% of the people out there are using their quote unquote AI as an advanced search tool. That's really all that most of us are using it for.
Yeah. The problem is what I found even recently, right? Because I play with all the various different tools, right? What I find is some of them just repeat the exact same information.
True.
Right? So it's like, if I'm asking you a question and on 3 different topics and 2 of them come back with the exact same answer, that's not really done it. I think it is a wonderful search tool, right? We have Lovable out there now that can crank out some dApps and do some pretty neat things from a rudimentary perspective, by all means, right? But that's where I think people think AI is just going to take over everything and start doing everything. And I don't think it is. I think AI is the next generation of helping us be more efficient about what is the thing to do.
It's going to be a combination of search, a combination of next gen intelligence to kind of guide us. Like you said, what's the next step to do? Not do the step, but tell us what the next step is, or help us to do a lot of those steps faster.
Yeah. And it's like, it's no secret, because if anybody's ever heard our CEO at Cynomi and our COO speak, the 2 owners, right? We're adamantly moving, like as we speak, towards 3.4 or 4.0 or whatever the next version of Cynomi is, to be a fully agentic platform, because we want it to be interactive.
Right.
Right. But what we wanted to do is we want to take there's only so many CISOs out there. there's not enough for the amount of security demands we need. So we have to be able to drive that work to a level of that may not be a CISO, but you still need a CISO or a security expert to do it. You're not making them an expert. You're just embedding some information, some technology, some AI. You're embedding the CISO intelligence into the platform, but it still comes down to the point that it's going to take a CISO or security expert to say, that's right, this is wrong, we do this. One of the examples I use all the time, right, is if you look on the wheel of security domains, right, we have a website will be up there. Well, I used to have a client that made a widget for an Apache helicopter. Guess what they didn't have? Any public facing anything. Like it looked like the old telco buildings in the small towns with no windows that those of us that are old enough are like, what does that building do? Right. And they didn't have a website, but it took my knowledge of knowing that client to say, this is actually a false positive, a false negative, or it's not actually needed. Now I need to go in and write the exception to say this client doesn't have a website because of X, Y, and Z, and then put that into the policy within the platform. So I now have an evidence repository. So if they ever do get audited or certified, I can simply send that person a link and say, go here. And that explains why there's no website and why the CISO downgraded the criticality of that specific ding because it wasn't needed.
Okay.
So embed the technology, help do the majority of the work, but still leave it to the expert to oversee and direct what work actually needs to happen.
Right. So let me translate that for some people dealing with law firms. Because the argument that I had to use to a client last week was that they wanted to go all AI, and they wanted it because they felt they would be left behind, and they wanted their AI to design their legal briefs and their deposition, translate their depositions, which that I said, well, that I can understand, but summarize, not, translate and summarize. They wanted it to actually create the drafts of the letters to opposing counsel. They wanted it, trial ready AI. So there are at least 3 cases that I know of where attorneys have gone into court with an AI generated brief and presented it to the court, and the judge looked at them, scolded them, and one is probably going to be disbarred. The others are not sure about, because the case information that AI brought up did not exist, and the attorney did not review it to know that it did not exist. That's where we need to take a step back and say, AI should help you, not replace you.
Well, and that's the nail on the head, right? Is I don't mind you creating it. Now, granted, if my neck's on the line, I don't want AI creating my defense.
Right.
But I also expect the legal team to use all the tools they have. But in the end, here's these drafts that it put out. You still got to read like I've been creating some documentation as of late, just trying to play with it and really understand if it's going to crank out the stuff it does. And I'll say it's about 80% accurate on what I see. But it's the nuances of my specific knowledge and experience where I find it being wrong.
Right.
So I think if you're drafting things, if you're using it as a research tool, those are all fine. But it still is going to take, and this is where the point we need to continue to drive home, it's still going to take the human to oversee and decide if that's correct, because the human's the one with the actual knowledge. AI is just scraping whatever LLM it's given access to, or the interwebs, or whatever it's been directed at to scrape. That's what it's going to go scrape for the information. But who's to say that information is correct?
Who's to say that information is correct? And does that information have a soul?
Yeah.
I mean, that it can't be the essence of what you and I bring to the table.
Correct.
So,
but same thing, right? We bring what our partners want us to bring is utility. They want to turn it on, it works, and turn it off, and it doesn't work. Right? But that takes us, our knowledge and our experience to do it. We use all kinds of SaaS tools, on-prem tools, virtual tools, AI tools in order for us to do that. But in the end, it's still a human body that's saying yes. Now, I may be able to take on 3 times the amount of clients I can today without adding staff. But like, that's what I should be doing. They're depending on me to be as efficient I can, because the best conversation you can have is, I don't understand why I'm paying you. I never see you. That's why you're paying me. You're paying me to be a lights on utility that you don't think about when you go home.
Yep. All the stuff that runs that you don't have to worry about. So, fantastic. All right, I'm going to stop us here because we could go on and on and on. We've already gone almost an hour, unscripted, I might add. How about that?
Pretty good. Two people with the gift of gab.
Yeah. So that is going to do it, folks. And as I said, Tim Coach is here in studio. So he's here hanging. We just had a lovely dinner. We're now going to go have dessert, my friend.
Yeah. Got it.
And then
always room for dessert.
Yep. And then we'll touch base again later this week at the Empower Conference. And for those of you that made it down here to Fort Lauderdale, didn't let me know, shame on you. And if I see you, I would slap your hand if I wasn't going to be sued for battery. But that's it, folks. We'll see you all out there soon. And until next time, holla.